What happens when a seemingly innocent affair ignites a firestorm of lies, heartbreak, and revenge? This is the story of a love triangle that spiraled into betrayal, manipulation, and an unthinkable crime. By the end of this tale, you'll witness how one secret unraveled lives, proving that even the smallest decisions can have the most devastating consequences. Stay with us as we unravel this tragic tale. Emma Wilkes seemed to live the perfect life. In the quiet town of Maple Ridge, she had a beautiful home that looked like it belonged in a magazine. The two-story house had flower boxes overflowing with colorful blooms on every window, and its charming picket fence framed a life that many envied. Inside that home, she had a husband, Nathan, who was a hard-working architect, and a sweet 7-year-old daughter, Lily, whose laughter brought light to every corner of their world. To everyone in town, Emma's life seemed like a dream. Nathan was respected, Lily was adored, and Emma herself was seen as the glue that held it all together. But what the world couldn't see was the emptiness Emma felt inside. Her marriage, once full of passion and connection, had become dull and distant. Nathan spent long hours at work, often coming home late, too tired to talk about anything beyond bills and schedules. Their conversations felt mechanical, like a to-do list they had to get through. At night, while Nathan worked in his study and Lily slept peacefully in her room, Emma would sit alone in the living room. She often scrolled through her phone, staring at pictures of happier times and wondering how her life had become so lifeless. She loved Nathan and adored Lily, but she couldn't ignore the growing ache in her heart. She felt invisible, like a ghost moving through her own life. One night, everything changed. Emma attended a charity gala at the town's community center. She put on her favorite black dress, hoping the evening would give her a break from the monotony. The gala was lively with music, laughter, and people dressed in their best. Emma sipped her wine and made small talk with neighbors, but she still felt out of place, disconnected. Then she met Jared Cole. Jared was new to Maple Ridge, a financial consultant who had recently moved to town. He had a magnetic charm that immediately drew people in. With his confident smile and warm demeanor, he seemed to light up the room. When Jared introduced himself to Emma, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: excitement. They started with polite conversation, but it quickly became more personal. Jared asked about her life, her interests, and her dreams. Unlike most people, he seemed genuinely interested in her answers. He noticed little things like the way her eyes lit up when she talked about Lily, or the way she nervously fiddled with her necklace. Jared's attention was intoxicating, and Emma found herself laughing and smiling in a way she hadn't in a long time. By the end of the evening, Emma felt something she hadn't expected. Jared made her feel alive, seen, and desired feelings that had been missing from her life for far too long. When he said, "It was really nice talking to you tonight," and smiled, Emma felt her heart flutter. It was innocent, or so she told herself, but deep down she knew something had shifted. As Emma left the gala that night, her mind raced. She told herself it was just harmless conversation, that she was overthinking it. But she couldn't deny the excitement bubbling inside her. For the first time in years, she felt like she had a secret, something just for herself. What she didn't realize was that this moment would become the first step in a chain of events that would change everything. Emma didn't plan for her life to change so drastically, but sometimes the smallest actions can lead to the biggest consequences. What started as casual conversations with Jared soon turned into something much deeper. They seemed to run into each other everywhere, in the cozy little coffee shop on Main Street, at the local gym, and even during community events. Each encounter left Emma feeling a spark she hadn't felt in years. Jared had a way of making her feel noticed. He paid attention to the little things like when she wore a new dress or changed her hairstyle. He listened when she spoke and laughed at her jokes in a way that made her feel alive again. Jared wasn't like her husband Nathan. He was bold, charismatic, and full of energy. He made Emma feel special in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. One evening, after an argument with Nathan about his long hours at work, Emma felt overwhelmed. The fight had started over something trivial, but it ended with Nathan retreating to his study, and Emma sitting alone in the living room, holding back tears. She picked up her phone and stared at Jared's number. Before she could overthink it, she sent him a message. "Can we talk?" Jared's reply came almost immediately. "Of course. Where should we meet?" They decided on a quiet bar just outside of town. It was a place where Emma felt safe, far away from the prying eyes of Maple Ridge. When she arrived, Jared was already there, waiting for her with that warm, confident smile. They ordered drinks, and Emma found herself opening up in a way she hadn't in years. She told Jared about her frustrations, her loneliness, and how she felt invisible in her own home. Jared listened intently, nodding at all the right moments. "You deserve so much more, Emma," he said, his voice soft and sincere. "You're incredible. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." His words hit her like a wave, filling the emptiness she had been carrying for so long. As the evening went on, the connection between them grew stronger. Jared walked Emma to her car, and for a moment they stood there under the soft glow of the streetlights. Emma hesitated, torn between what she wanted and what she knew was right. Jared leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that left her breathless. That kiss changed everything. It was electric and thrilling, unlike anything Emma had felt in years. It wasn't just a kiss, it was the start of something neither of them could stop. In the days that followed, Emma and Jared's relationship deepened. They began meeting in secret, carefully crafting excuses to cover their tracks. Jared suggested they go to a small hotel on the outskirts of town, a place where they could escape their everyday lives. Emma found herself drawn to the thrill of it all. Every stolen moment felt like a release from the monotony of her routine. For Emma, being with Jared was a rediscovery of herself. She felt desired, admired, and alive in a way she hadn't for years. For Jared, the affair was different. To him, Emma was a conquest. He thrived on the control he had over her and the excitement of sneaking around. Jared wasn't looking for love, he was looking for power. But Jared wasn't the only one hiding something. In a small apartment miles away, Tessa Cole was piecing together the truth. Jared had been distant for months, brushing off her questions and offering vague excuses about work. Tessa and Jared had been together for years, and though their relationship was far from perfect, she had believed they had a future together. One evening, while Jared was in the shower, Tessa's curiosity got the better of her. She unlocked his phone and started scrolling through his messages. What she found shattered her. There were texts between Jared and Emma, flirty, affectionate, and filled with plans to meet. Tessa stared at the screen, her heart pounding as she read the words. That confirmed her worst fears. Sadness quickly turned to anger. Tessa felt betrayed and humiliated, but as she sat there, her emotions began to shift. She wasn't just angry at Jared, she was angry at Emma too. Tessa scrolled through Emma's social media, studying the pictures of her perfect suburban life. The house, the family, the seemingly perfect marriage, it all felt like a slap in the face. Tessa couldn't stand the thought of Jared choosing Emma over her. She decided she wasn't going to sit back and let them get away with their betrayal. She wanted revenge, and she was willing to do whatever it took to make them both pay. Emma thought her secret was safe, but she had no idea that Tessa was already watching, already planning. What started as a passionate escape was about to spiral into something far darker, something neither Emma nor Jared could have imagined. The world they had built for themselves, a world of lies and stolen moments, was about to come crashing down. Tessa Cole sat in her small, dimly lit apartment, scrolling through Jared's phone. Her hands shook as she read the messages, each one hitting her like a blow. The texts were playful, flirtatious, and filled with secret plans to meet. And the two photos, pictures of Jared and a woman named Emma smiling together at a coffee shop or walking into a hotel, were undeniable. Jared was having an affair. Tessa's heart sank. The man she had loved for years, the one she had built her dreams around, had betrayed her. At first, she felt numb, the kind of pain that paralyzed her. But that numbness soon gave way to anger. How could Jared do this to her? How could he treat her like she was nothing? As her mind raced, Tessa's sadness hardened into something else. She wasn't going to cry over him. She wasn't going to let him walk away and play happy with another woman. She was going to do something about it. Instead of confronting Jared, Tessa started gathering information. She unlocked Jared's phone whenever he left it lying around and read more of his conversations with Emma. Through their messages, she pieced together Emma's life, her husband Nathan, her daughter Lily, and her seemingly perfect existence in Maple Ridge. Emma's social media told the same story: a beautiful home, a loving family, and a reputation as a kind and involved community. Remember, Tessa couldn't stand it. The more she learned about Emma, the angrier she became. Emma had everything Tessa had ever wanted: a stable life, a family, and love. And yet, she was risking it all to be with Jared. To Tessa, it felt like Emma had stolen something from her, and she wanted revenge. Sitting at her laptop, Tessa created a fake email account. She sent Nathan an anonymous message. "Your wife is hiding something from you. Check her phone." She imagined the message setting off alarm bells in his head, but when days passed with no response, she knew it hadn't been enough. Tessa realized she needed to show him proof, something he couldn't ignore. She went back to Jared's phone and dug up photos of him with Emma. There were pictures of them walking hand in hand, laughing together, and entering a hotel. These weren't just coincidences, they told a story of betrayal. Tessa attached the photos to a new email and sent them to Nathan with a single sentence. "Your wife is cheating. Here's the proof." Nathan opened the email late one evening. As he stared at the photos, his chest tightened. For weeks he had noticed changes in Emma. She had been distant, secretive about her phone, and quick to dismiss his questions. He had brushed it off, thinking she was just stressed. But now, staring at the evidence, he couldn't deny it. That night, Nathan confronted Emma. He placed his phone on the kitchen table and showed her the photos. Emma froze, her face pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized she couldn't lie her way out of this. "I'm sorry, Nathan," she whispered. Her voice cracked as she continued. "I didn't mean for this to happen. It was a mistake." Nathan's expression didn't change. He looked at her, his eyes filled with pain. "A mistake? Emma, you've destroyed everything we've built. How can we come back from this?" Emma broke down, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. She promised to end the affair and fix their marriage, but Nathan couldn't see past the betrayal. He couldn't imagine sharing a life with someone who had broken his trust so deeply. That night, he packed a bag, took Lily, and left. Emma stood at the window watching Nathan's car disappear into the night. The weight of what she had done crushed her. She had destroyed her family for a relationship that now felt meaningless. Jared's attention, which had once thrilled her, now seemed like a cruel joke. But for Tessa, this was only the beginning. Watching Emma's life unravel gave her a dark sense of satisfaction. She imagined Nathan's heartbreak, Emma's regret, and Jared's confusion. It wasn't enough to ease her pain, but it felt like justice. Yet Tessa's anger hadn't been fully quenched. Her jealousy and resentment consumed her, and she wanted more. She wanted Emma to lose everything. As Tessa plotted her next move, she had no idea how far her actions would take her, or the devastating consequences they would bring. Emma thought her life had already fallen apart, but Tessa's revenge was far from over. The nightmare was just beginning. Tessa's thoughts were consumed by Emma. Every time she saw Emma's smiling family photos online, it felt like salt in her wounds. Jared, the man Tessa thought she would build a future with, was begging another woman for love, while Emma, still, had her husband and child. The unfairness of it all ignited something dark inside her. She wasn't content with just being hurt, she wanted revenge. Tessa started watching Emma in real life. She figured out her routines, where she bought her groceries, which gym she visited, and even her favorite coffee shop. Tessa kept her distance, always careful to stay out of sight. Seeing Emma in person only deepened her obsession. To Tessa, Emma wasn't just another woman, she was a symbol of everything Tessa had lost. One evening, as Tessa drove past Emma's house, she saw Jared's car parked outside. She pulled over and watched from a shadowed spot on the street. Through the large front windows, she saw Jared and Emma standing on the porch. Even from a distance, Tessa could feel the tension between them. Emma's arms were crossed tightly, and Jared was leaning toward her, pleading. Tessa cracked her car window to hear bits of their conversation. "I can't do this anymore, Jared," Emma said, her voice steady but sad. "I have to end this. It's tearing my family apart." Jared sounded desperate. "You can't just walk away from this. We've been through too much." "I love you, Emma." "Was any of it real for you?" Emma hesitated, her voice softening. "It was real, Jared. But it was a mistake. I need to fix what I broke." Tessa's grip on the steering wheel tightened as anger surged through her. Jared had once told Tessa she was his whole world. Now, here he was, clinging to someone else. And Emma, she thought she could just walk away and patch up her life as if nothing had happened. That wasn't going to happen, not if Tessa had anything to do with it. When Tessa drove home that night, her mind was racing with ideas. She didn't just want Emma to hurt. She wanted Jared to pay too. She knew things about him, details he had shared during their years together. Jared liked to brag about his cleverness at work, how he knew how to move money around to make things happen. He probably thought she wasn't paying attention, but Tessa remembered every word. In her small, dimly lit apartment, Tessa sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She created a fake email account and started typing. Her message was short, but packed a punch: accusations of financial crimes, embezzlement, and unethical behavior at Jared's job. She filled in enough details to make the claim believable. After rereading it, she added one last note. "This man should not be trusted with your company's money." She sent the email to Jared's employer and leaned back in her chair, a grim smile on her face. Now it was just a matter of waiting. A few days later, Jared's world fell apart. His employer called the police, who launched an investigation. At first, Jared thought it was a misunderstanding, but when they started asking specific questions about his work, he realized someone had tipped them off. Before he could figure out who, Jared was arrested at his office. His colleagues watched as the police led him out in handcuffs. His reputation was destroyed in an instant. Jared's first thought was Emma. He convinced himself that she was the one who had betrayed him. In his mind, it all made sense, her coldness during their last conversation, her insistence on ending things. She must have wanted to ruin him for not letting her go. Jared tried calling Emma from the holding cell, but she didn't answer. She had been avoiding his calls since their last argument, determined to cut all ties and repair her marriage. Emma was clueless about Jared's arrest. She was too focused on trying to win back Nathan's trust and rebuild her life for Lily. While Jared sat in jail, Tessa reveled in the chaos she had created. For the first time in months, she felt in control. Jared was paying for his betrayal, and Emma's life was unraveling. But her satisfaction was short-lived. The storm she had unleashed wasn't over, it was only getting started. Jared, humiliated and furious, wasn't going to let this end quietly. And as his anger grew, he began to plot his next move. Little did he know, the woman he was blaming wasn't the one behind his downfall, and Tessa, blinded by her obsession, had no idea that her plan for revenge was about to spiral into something far more dangerous. It was late at night, and the house was quiet. Emma had just put Lily to bed and was sitting in the living room when the sudden pounding on the front door shattered the silence. She froze, her heart pounding. The noise was relentless, and when she looked out the window, her blood ran cold. It was Jared! "Emma, open the door!" Jared yelled, his voice filled with anger. He banged on the door again, harder this time. "You can't ignore me. We need to talk." Emma's hands trembled as she stepped back from the door. She quickly grabbed her phone and called Nathan. Despite their separation, she knew he would come if Lily and she were in danger. "Nathan," she whispered into the phone, her voice shaking. "Jared is outside. He's furious, and I don't know what he's going to do." "Lock the doors and stay away from him," Nathan said firmly. "I'm on my way. Call the police." Emma ended the call and dialed 911, her voice barely steady as she explained the situation. Jared continued yelling, his voice growing louder. "You think you can just walk away from me?" Jared shouted. "After everything, you owe me an explanation." Minutes felt like hours as Emma waited. She checked on Lily, who was thankfully still asleep, and then stood near the window watching Jared pace on the porch. His anger was palpable, and she could see he wasn't thinking clearly. When Nathan arrived, he wasted no time. He stepped out of his car and walked toward the porch. "Jared, leave now!" Nathan shouted, his voice calm but firm. "You're scaring Emma and Lily!" Jared spun around, his face twisted in rage. "Oh, look who decided to play the hero," he sneered. "She doesn't even love you, Nathan. She's been lying to you this whole time." Nathan didn't rise to the bait. He stepped closer, keeping his tone steady. "Jared, this isn't the way. Walk away before you do something you'll regret." But Jared wasn't listening. His frustration boiled over, and he shoved Nathan back. Inside, Emma watched in horror, clutching the phone tightly in her hand. "Stop this, Jared!" she shouted through the window. "The police are almost here." Jared laughed bitterly. "You called the cops? Of course you did. You just want to ruin me." His anger escalated, and before Nathan could react, Jared pulled a knife from his pocket. He pointed it toward Nathan, his hand shaking with rage.
"You took everything from me," Jared hissed. "I have nothing left because of you and her." Nathan stayed calm, raising his hands to show he wasn't a threat. "Jared, put the knife down," he said slowly. "Think about what you're
Doing? This isn't you." The sound of sirens grew louder, red and blue lights flashing in the distance. Jared glanced toward the road, his grip on the knife faltering. That brief moment of hesitation gave Nathan the chance he needed. He grabbed a nearby chair and swung it at Jared, knocking the knife out of his hand. The blade clattered to the ground as Jared stumbled back. The police arrived moments later, officers rushing up the driveway. They restrained Jared as he thrashed and shouted incoherently. "This isn't over, Emma!" he yelled as they hauled him toward the squad car.
"You'll regret this."
Inside, Emma collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. Nathan walked over and sat beside her, his breathing heavy but steady. He put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's over," Nathan said softly. "He can't hurt you anymore." But as they sat there, in the quiet aftermath, both of them knew that while the immediate danger was gone, the scars of that night would remain with them forever. Emma had hoped to repair the damage she had caused, but the events of the night had left wounds that wouldn't heal easily. The chaos had ended, but the damage was impossible to undo. Emma sat in a quiet lawyer's office, her hands trembling as she signed the final papers. Nathan sat across from her, his face calm, but his eyes filled with hurt. Their once happy marriage was officially over. There were no angry words exchanged, just a shared silence that spoke volumes about their broken bond. Nathan had been awarded full custody of Lily. It was a decision Emma couldn't argue with. She knew her choices had led them to this point. She packed her belongings and moved into a small apartment on the edge of Maple Ridge. The house that once felt like a symbol of her perfect life was now a painful reminder of everything she had lost. Life in her new home was quiet, too quiet. Without Lily's laughter or Nathan's steady presence, the silence was deafening. Emma spent her days trying to fill the void. She took a job at a small bookstore, finding comfort in the familiar scent of paper and the peaceful rhythm of stocking shelves. But no matter how busy she kept herself, the guilt lingered. Every night she replayed her choices, wondering how she had allowed things to spiral so far out of control. Lily visited her occasionally, but their once strong bond had weakened. Emma tried her best to make their time together special, cooking Lily's favorite meals, reading her bedtime stories, but the distance between them was clear. Lily didn't laugh as much around Emma, and her questions about why Nathan wasn't there were like daggers to Emma's heart. Nathan, on the other hand, focused all his energy on providing Lily with stability. Weekends were filled with adventures, to the zoo, picnics in the park, and ice cream trips. Despite his heartbreak, Lily became his reason to move forward. She gave him hope and reminded him that even in the darkest times, there was still light. Jared faced the consequences of his actions in court. His charming, confident exterior had crumbled. Found guilty of breaking into Emma's home and threatening her, Jared was sentenced to several years in prison. As he sat in his cell, bitterness and regret consumed him. He had lost everything: his freedom, his reputation, and any chance of redemption. Jared had time to think about his choices, but it was too late to change the outcome. And then there was Tessa. Her thirst for revenge had destroyed more lives than she could have imagined, including her own. After Jared's arrest and the exposure of her involvement, she disappeared from Maple Ridge. No one knew where she went or what became of her. Her name became a ghostly whisper in town, tied to the chaos she had left behind. Emma's days slowly became a journey of self-reflection. She sought therapy to confront the pain she had caused and to find a way to forgive herself. Every step was difficult, but she held on to the hope that one day she could rebuild her life. She couldn't undo the past, but she could try to be a better mother and person moving forward. This story is a powerful reminder of how betrayal and revenge can ripple through lives, causing unimaginable pain. Emma's choices, Jared's obsession, and Tessa's vengeance had turned their lives upside down. In the end, no one truly won. All that remained were the lessons learned and the scars left behind. This story of forbidden love, betrayal, and revenge reveals how a single choice can unravel lives and leave devastation in its wake. What do you think? Could Emma have prevented this tragedy, or was the outcome inevitable? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this tale gripping, be sure to hit like, subscribe to our channel, and join us next time as we explore more stories that uncover the deepest and darkest corners of the human heart.